Hi, the SI meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday, February 11th. A major East Coast storm is headed to the I-95 corridor between D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and Boston in the Wednesday night and Thursday time frame. It looks like it will dump substantial snowfall on this region, as well as some icing. The heaviest snowfall looks like it will occur in the northern and western suburbs. The greatest chance for a changeover to sleet and freezing rain will occur from about a route I-95 to points south and east. It looks like the bullseye for snow accumulations will be the northern western suburbs of the big cities back to the Appalachian Mountains, and in some parts of the eastern U.S., there can be 1 to 2 feet of snow from this storm over the next 48 hours or so. I thought we'd take a look at several computer forecast runs from last night, from the European to the U.S. NOAA model runs, and then we'll take a look at the Canadian. This is the European upper level forecast map for tomorrow evening, Wednesday evening, and again it shows a significant trough of low pressure here in the south central part of the U.S. with a significant jet streak riding around the base of that particular trough. Let's now jump ahead 24 hours to Thursday evening, and here is the European model forecast map for 500 millibars for Thursday evening. By this time, kind of a closed upper level low at 500 millibars with just a very impressive jet streak on the eastern side of that trough. A lot of upward motion in the I-95 corridor with this particular setup. Let's now take a look at the surface maps for the European model. And here's the surface forecast from last night's Zero-Z European model run for tomorrow evening, Wednesday evening. The center of the low pressure at this particular time, the southeastern part of Georgia. Lots of snow and ice throughout the south over the next 24 hours or so. Places like Atlanta, who got pounded a couple of weeks ago, will get pounded again this time with an ice storm. And there will be heavy snowfall accumulations in the higher elevations of western North Carolina, throughout western part of Virginia. 1 to 2 feet of snow is possible from this storm in that part of the country over the next 48 hours or so. Notice quite a cold air damming beginning to this scenario here in the I-95 corridor as of tomorrow night. High pressure does move off the coast, but there's some very cold air just sitting here in the northeastern part of the country. In fact, if it wasn't for this upcoming major storm, the bitter cold would be the real story. This morning's temperatures in some of the suburbs of Philadelphia are in the single digits. Not far north and west of Philadelphia, temperatures are near or at or below freezing. Below zero. A place like Allentown and Reading, some below zero readings. All the way up through the Midwest. Madison, Wisconsin this morning is 15 degrees below zero. It's just some bitter cold for this time of the year. Let's now jump ahead 24 hours to Thursday evening from last night's Zero-Z European model run. And the European model continues to have a major storm sitting off the mid-Atlantic coastline tomorrow evening. This is a 986 millibar low. This particular model has been consistently stronger with this low, producing more in the way of precipitation, more in the way of snowfall. And I'll tell you what, when the European model seems to be focused in with a consistent solution, it usually pans out correctly. And this has been very consistent over the last several model runs, with a major storm sitting off the mid-Atlantic coast as of tomorrow evening. Now, let's take note here. This is a 986 millibar a low pressure center as depicted by the European model, with just strong winds blowing snow in much of the part of the northeastern country as this storm progresses between Wednesday night and Thursday into Thursday night. Well, let's now take a look at a couple of the U.S. NOAA models. This is the NAM model run from last night's Zero-Z for tomorrow evening. We'll look at the same time frame for the surface forecast maps tomorrow evening and then Thursday evening. By tomorrow evening, a couple different low pressure areas depicted here by the NAM model run. Really not too different in terms of location from the European model, which kind of had a center right in the middle here. Notice high pressure situated off the northeast coastline and slowly pulling away, but cold air damming, cold air coming all the way down the eastern side of the Appalachian Mountains. And as of tomorrow evening, let's now jump ahead 24 hours. And here's the NAM model forecast map for Thursday evening. A low pressure not too different from the European model, perhaps a bit farther to the north and east, but notice the difference in pressure here. 996, so 10 millibars weaker compared to the European model. It has a very impressive conveyor belt type snowfall pattern on the northwest flank of this particular low pressure area. A very healthy storm here from the NAM model run, but still not quite as strong as the European model, which has been consistently stronger compared to many of the other models. Let's now take a look at the GFS model run. Same time frame from a different model here. This is the GFS model run for tomorrow evening, Wednesday evening. Kind of a stretched out area of low pressure, and basically the same general location, southeastern part of Georgia, northern Florida. A high pressure also depicted here off the northeast coast, now pulling away. Let's now jump ahead 24 hours. And here's the GFS forecast map for Thursday evening. Storm a little bit farther to the east compared to the other models. This is pulling it closer to the coast. Remember, we talked about a southeastern bias in storm track locations along the east coast by the GFS model run. As you get closer and closer to the event, it tends to pull the storm closer and closer to the coast. That process has begun, and yet it's still a little bit weaker. About a 992 millibar low pressure center here, about 6 millibars weaker than the European model. But even the GFS model is now depicting quite a healthy looking conveyor belt type snowfall pattern on the northwest flank of this particular low pressure area. It is now looking more and more impressive on the GFS model. I will expect that trend to continue through the day today into tomorrow. Well, let's finally end up with a look at last night's Canadian model run. I think this has a pretty good handle of the situation here. This is tomorrow evening, about 7 o'clock tomorrow evening, and then we'll step through this on hourly increments. Snow breaking out across the D.C. metro region, still not yet reaching Philadelphia. The Wednesday evening rush hour, for the most part, looks like it'll be safe, especially up across Philadelphia and certainly across New York City. It looks like the snow arrives in Philly around midnight or after midnight, and the real problems will begin for the Thursday morning rush hour. Let's now step through this 1 hour at a time here. Notice the blue, of course, represents snow. The darkest blue, heavy snow. This is early Thursday morning heavy snow right throughout the D.C. metro region, solid snowfall all the way up to the New York City region. Let's go a couple hours. Now notice the kind of the rain snow line here depicted by the Canadian model as of early Thursday morning, cutting through southern New Jersey across south and east of the D.C. area. In other words, south and east of the big cities. And again, I think the northern and western suburbs are setting up for primarily a snow event, but even there can be some icing mixed in. But the biggest threat for icing and perhaps an ice buildup will be from I-95 to points south and east. Let's now jump ahead a couple of hours here, and the snow continues. That rain snow line just about along I-95 now here, just into perhaps South Philadelphia and just on the eastern side of the district. But again, northern and western suburbs all the way up from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City remain in snow. Let's now step through a couple more hours here. And that low pressure area, notice the Canadian has the low a little bit farther tucked in to along the coastline. The European model and even the U.S. models were farther to the east. It's likely to end up a little bit farther to the east than what the Canadian model is indicating here. But even with this coastal track right along the coast, there's still primarily snow falling in the northern and western suburbs. Finally, a couple more hours, and this is now well into the afternoon on Thursday. And interestingly, it has a kind of a secondary pocket of heavy snow centered around the D.C. area later in the day on Thursday. So it'll be Friday before we really start digging out. But a major storm headed to the I-95 corridor from D.C. to Philly to New York City to Boston Wednesday night and Thursday. Stay tuned to the SIWeather.com for updates later today. That's it for now. I'm meteorologist Paul Orion.